Hello everyone. So today we're going to be looking at character development and a couple of different approaches that you can have to character development, depending on what style you're going for your group presentation. These are some interesting ways that you might be able to look at your character and to theoretically show that you understand the approach to acting that your director has chosen. So what is a character? A character is something that connects the audience to the production, no matter what style it is. It's sometimes the emotions of the character that connect them. Maybe the character helps to draw out the themes and the intent that the director wanted. It helps to understand the story. And as I said, the different theorists had a different idea as what role the character should play and what the level of connection the audience should have to them. So if we look at Brecht, he really wanted, with his epic theatre, wanted to challenge society. He did this through focusing on the themes of productions and to alienate the audience, to make them more aware of what was happening, to heighten their awareness of the play. As Stanislavski in theatre, he said, systematically compels the empathy of the spectator, who is then a victim of hypnotic experience, completely entangled. And he said, how is the spectator to be made to master life when all that happens masters him? So rather than getting stuck on the themes, the audience were just getting lost in the play and enjoying the play, but that wasn't bringing to any sort of social change. So what Stanislavski cared for was the naturalness, and as a result, everything in his theatre was far too natural for anyone to pause and go through it thoroughly. You don't normally examine your own house or your own feeding habits, do you? So Brecht was quite clear on what he thought of Stanislavski in theatre. He wanted people to connect with that. Maybe it was where he was growing up around the time of Nazi Germany. When this theatre was starting to come out, he actually ran away from Germany. So you got to think about what was his point of theatre. He really wanted to make that social change point. So how do you approach it? Well, except for a few cases in some of his works, there wasn't complex characterization when performing. It was about objectivity and detachment. Being direct and honest with the audience, there was no illusion. People were to know they were watching a play and that you were an actor. Objective of this is to raise awareness of the social issues by being an actor rather than a character. So use your different roles to do that. The audience should concentrate on ideas and action rather than the emotion and the character. So they should look at a situation and go, gee, isn't that sad about society? Rather than, isn't that sad for that person? So Brecht had some advice for actors, was to perform with an awareness that you're being watched. Acknowledge that audience. Look at the floor, openly calculate your movements. Separate your voice from gesture. Make vocal and physical timing strange and disconnected. Remain uninvolved with other actors physically and emotionally. Address the audience directly. Break them up into groups. Talk to this group, then talk to that group. Let them know that you are talking to them. Speak your lines as if it were a quotation and in the manner of delivering a speech in the third person. Occasionally speak stage directions aloud to intensify the idea of unemotional acting. Be critical of your character as though all of your actions have occurred in the past. Stand in front of a mirror and understand your movements and gesture. Use robotic, mechanical, dreamlike, and other non-realistic techniques. Improvise using an acting style completely opposite to what you'd normally use because it helps you to provide fresh values. They're the ones that are applicable to us. There's many more. So, epic theatre, Brecht, production, what does it look like? Well, there might be some captions that you use, explaining themes, encouraging people to action, whether that's on a card, multimedia, however you'd like to do it. It's a bit disjointed and episodic so that you don't get used to what's going to happen next. It's going to be, oh, what? Where are we now? And getting a little bit confused with what's happening. Then you remember, and it helps to just draw away that emotion. There was music to neutralize emotion rather than intensify it. Ordinary lighting rather than atmospheric. Everyday dress. There was props that reinforced ideas rather than the reality. Constructivist scenery like stairs, levels, scaffolding, treadmills, revolving stages. Might be films as background scenery. Projected images linking history. and social circumstances so that people on the could connect and sort of identify where they'd seen this. And the audience were aware that they were watching a play, so maybe some changing on stage, maybe sitting in the audience, those sorts of things, saying, oh, now it's your turn to come on, you saying out stage directions. So you can see all this stuff is saying we want to get the themes across, but what we don't want to do is for the characters, for the audience to connect emotionally with this play. So we're going to do lots of things to stop that and for them to actually understand they're here to watch a play and hopefully improve society. So theatre of the absurd. It's based on existentialism, which emphasises individual existence, freedom and choice. You make meaning of life yourself. And you've got there the image of Waiting for Godot, probably the most famous theatre of the absurd production. So humans define their own meaning in life rather than try to make rational decisions despite existing in a rational universe. So characters in Theatre of the Absurd are quite different. You've got Berenger from Rhinoceros, who is a completely full-dimensional character. Very, very like... So Theatre of the Absurd characters are quite different. You've got some in there like Berenger from Rhinoceros, who is a full-dimensional character, reminiscent of a Stanislavskian character. We can empathise with him, we understand him, we see him. But then as well with some Theatre of the Absurd productions, another one by Ionesco, The Bald Prima Donna, is very, very one-dimensional characters, and they're based on stereotypes. There's not that extra look. So they can be very varied. As the plot of Theatre of the Absurd frequently involves pointless activity with no traditional plot, it's best not to ask the usual questions. You know, what has happened in the past, what's coming next. Rather, as an actor approaching this, you should say, what's happening now? What am I meant to be getting across now? So, Theatre of the Absurd character is a real mix. You've got some realism in there, you've got some alienation, and you've got some exploration of real life. So you've got the idea of a real character who then alienates the audience by doing things for an extended period of time, or using the plot doesn't quite go in the way life goes, but they're still a real character and they explore real life in a sometimes grotesque way, whether you see them toileting on stage, whether you see them eating on stage in a sort of vulgar manner. So you've got some different ideas there. So you've got Konstantin Stanislavski, Bertolt Brecht and Anton Artaud for the little acronyms there if you want to have a look. Okay, so here we are now with Stanislavski. So the method, the Stanislavskian method, was originally created and used by Stanislavski, and it was based on emotional memory from the actor's point of view, the emotional memory that we all have, for which an actor focuses internally to portray a character's emotions on stage. Okay, and we can't confuse this with Strasberg's method acting, which has got recent notability with Heath Ledger and Jay Leto and their transformations in real life to their character of the Joker. If you search up method acting, there's some really good articles at the moment because of the recent Suicide Squad release where people are questioning it and its integrity. There's just some really interesting stuff that you can look at in terms of method acting. So an interesting story is when you have Laurence Olivier, one of the greatest actors of all time, and he was working on Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman. And Laurence Olivier was talking to Hoffman, and Hoffman, for his character, had to stay up for 72 hours. And so that's what Hoffman did. He stayed up for that time to try and achieve emotional authenticity so he could understand that character. And Laurence Olivier said to him, "My dear boy, why don't you just try acting?" So quite an amusing story there. And if you actually want to hear the full story of that quote, then look up The Actor's Studio, Dustin Hoffman, where they go into that a little bit more. But they're those two perspectives. One is that you act the thing, the other is that you've experienced it. So Stanislavski believed that actors were portraying the surface of the character, and he didn't like that. He didn't believe what they were doing. So he was urging his characters to express character motivation and emotion rather than it just being natural and intuitive. So he wanted people to discover the inner truth of human feeling and existence. He helped the actors free their innermost feelings, moods, and thoughts and experiences through the process of self-exploration. So the actors worked to find the expression of an inner image by using their personal experiences and subconscious memories. So the main points of the Stanislavskian method, you've got a super objective as an actor. So that's your main idea. So what's your intent? What's the main idea of your character for the final goal of each of your performances? So to achieve that super goal, the super objective, you need to have a through line of action where you have a logical mental line running through the role, and this helps to guide it. So maybe your through line of action is, so super objective is to ultimately find love. The through line of actions are those processes you go through to achieve that. Now, in any performance, there's given circumstances. There's a time, a place of action. There's the director's interpretation, setting, lighting, sound. As an actor, you need to be aware of these things. Okay, so you are that character, so you're thinking about those times, the place, how does that impact you as a character? And this is the big one as well, magic if. Stanislavski felt that actors must believe in how they would react before they could believe in the events of stage. But rather than saying, if I were in that situation, what would I do? He would get the actors to say, if I were the character in that situation, what would I do? And it helps us, from our emotional memory, to connect and work out what this particular character would do. So when you're on stage, you must play yourself. The person is at base in any role you play, your person. So Stanislavski is about you being a person, an actor, and putting this character on to understand them, but you're always yourself as well. So there's some different approaches to acting that you might like to do. We'll talk more in a class about it.